All right. Hey, yeah, I hear something in the background too, but I don't know whose it is. It's not mine, so I'm going to blame Cheshire because I got everything else muted. So,
All right. Hey,
no, maybe it
yeah, I
is on
hear
my
something in the
end.
background too, but I don't know
Who
whose it
is
is. It's not
that? Is that
mine,
me?
so I'm gonna blame Cheshire
Oh,
because I
I
got
am
everything else
maybe got
muted.
some
So,
background
all
noise.
right. Hey,
Oh, it was me. My bad. It's fixed. But you know what? I'm going to blame her anyways just because I can. And she'll just go, yes, Steve, it was me. It won't happen again. Please don't beat me anymore. So anyways, guys, hey, look at Ask a Philosopher. Got a little bit redoing how we're doing this. We're using NDI now. We got a layout too. I didn't do 95% of this layout. That was Dave McGinnis. So props to him. He did about 95. I had about 5% input on it. But we're going to be talking about the logical problem of evil tonight. So this is something that I've talked about before on my channel. I had a very long video, about 2 hours, on the logical problem of evil. It is a interesting problem. It's kind of tangential, and they used to kind of consider it the old cousin or the grandfather of the evidential problem of evil, which we'll probably talk about at some point. But Nicholas Soutter here, the philosopher for Ask a Philosopher, because I guess he kind of is considered to be a philosopher. He's got a degree in philosophy, so we're going to call him a philosopher. He's going to like talk a little bit about it. Then I'm going to kind of like throw arrows at it when it comes to some of the theodicies that are out there, which are some of the defeaters for the logical problem of evil and evidential problem of evil coming from Plantinga and Keats, I think it is. So what do you think there? You want to lead us? Oh, by the way, before we even get started, we got Cheshire with us, if you guys notice. She kind of had a makeover in the last 5 minutes. She was just hanging out with Reds over there doing her thing. And all of a sudden, she's now completely different. So, yes, I use her for eye candy. Yeah, of course I do. Why would I not? I'm not an idiot. But she's got a mind too, and she's getting drunk. And so this is what we do on, you know, Ask a Philosopher. You drink and talk philosophy. But Cheshire, you want to say something first before we get to Nick here? Because you know how Nick is. We'll never get a pause.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm just here to be the layman of the room to ask the dumb, obvious questions.
Well, I'm a layperson too, you know. What are you drinking, though?
The same one as I was drinking during rum and coke night.
Oh, you haven't polished that bottle off yet? Oh, wow.
No.
You are
Of
not
course
pro.
not. Well, okay, listen. I have some personal problems. And one of them being is that I don't tend to sleep or eat or survive very well, so I cannot drink like I used to. So I just I have to
You're
not.
telling me about not sleeping. Do you realize that people message me at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, like, all the time?
Yeah.
I'm like
No,
literally
you
up
message
24 hours a
me
day.
at 3, 4, 5,
Yeah,
6,
I'm
7
the one
o'clock in the
messaging you
morning.
at like 6 a.m. But anyways, Nick, welcome. Welcome back. Ask a Philosopher.
Glad to be back. I missed doing the show. Hope we can do more. I enjoy it. So the highlight of my week. So thrilled to be doing it, and hopefully going to be doing more on Great Debate Community and all that other good stuff.
I would like
so
that.
forward
And yes,
to it.
we are competing with Reds right now, but you know what? Reds has been broadcasting to the same idiot for about 3 hours now. I don't feel bad for you, Reds. You do this to yourself. It is all your fault. Yeah, if you guys haven't noticed, Reds was still going on to Russian vids, trying to explain to him basic concepts most of us learn in like first grade. And then it got really surreal when he claimed that Cheshire was actually trans and that she had a large Adam's apple.
As if that would be a bad thing, even if
I
it
would
was.
still hit it. I wouldn't care. Yeah, doesn't matter to me. But yeah, I mean, I think first of all, I think that some woman at some point in time heard him because it was really bizarre that he went
I don't know.
from.
That would involve a woman having to interact with him, and I don't know if that even went that far.
Yeah, that's a couple of assumptions.
Fair
there.
enough. These are all making assumptions. Yeah, but he did not like you,
I asked
and I don't
him
think he
if
liked
he was
women.
an incel. I asked him if he was an incel. He said no, but he doesn't like trannies. So he's transphobic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, so he's not an incel, but he's either a bigot or transphobe.
Or he is an incel in denial.
Yeah. Oh,
Seems to be the case.
I just got noticed I have a non-moderator here. I got to moderate. There we go. Give you a moderator thing. You get a wrench, and you get a wrench, and you get a wrench. Anyway, so when that hangout over on the Reds channel ends, please have them come over here. Matter of fact, if you want to go mention over there that we're having this, that would be great too. Don't steal his red stuff, but let him know that Cheshire was over here and I stole her from him. So if he wants her back, he has to come get her firsthand.
Oh, please do that.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So go
That'd be
let
so
Reds
funny.
know that I stole Cheshire. Somebody or a couple people go over to his hangout and say, "Hey man, Steve's taking your girl, man."
Please, please do that. That would be amazing. I would love that.
I got the power. All right, let's lead into this, man. So, Nick, why don't you tell us about the logical problem of evil? I haven't even started drinking yet. See what already happens on Ask a Philosopher Drunk Night.
One more thing before we do that, actually, I also want to remind everyone that actually I am going to be on Great Debate Community tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. John is going to be hosting. We're going to have Dr. Misha Griffin, Sweet Heathen, myself, Tropic Thunder, and
I love
a few
her.
others. Yeah, she's
her.
awesome. I almost got to meet her because on my sort of road trip around half the country, I was in D.C., but didn't work out. But we're going to be discussing female subservience in, I think, in particular, the Abrahamic religions and why it's antithetical to human rights and equality. So
awesome. I'm going to be listening to that
tomorrow.
Yes, definitely. A couple things real quick. Yes, Glitch, you get a spanner. Puff, you get a spanner. Corey was funny. Corey says, I don't know Corey enough to give him a spanner, but he seems pretty decent. But he says, I told Reds that Steven stole his trainee. Good giggity. Yeah, I got the power.
It's amazing.
Man. I don't know. I don't get it, man. I mean, if he thinks you're like anything but you think you are, I don't know.
If you guys want to know a little bit about me, super secret, I'm a little bit of a goblin. I'm not a troll because I'm not dangerous enough to be a troll, but I'm definitely a goblin, and the reason I got dressed up tonight was because I knew there was going to be a conversation with Reds, and last time I was on, he called me a bimbo a bunch of times, so I figured I'd dress up.
You want to get all girly for Reds?
No, for Russian vids.
Oh, for Russian vids.
She's causing trouble. Dude.
I got you. I understand now. Yeah, I get it. All right, so
I may or may not be shit disturbing.
No, that's fine. We'll let you do it. Like I said, you're just here for eye candy. Shut up. All right, so I'm kidding. I love Chesh. And I'm scared of Chesh, but in a different way from Reds, and a different way from Russian vids. So, anyways, let's lead into this. Tell us about the logical problem of evil, Nick.
Logical problem of evil. It's so a lot of people say, well, gee, how if there's a God, how or why would he allow evil to exist? And in order for this argument to work, you have to make several assumptions. The first is that God is omnipotent and in some cases, depending on how you frame it, omniscient. But the shorthand for that is he can do absolutely anything, which I think most people sort of think really is God. I mean, that's what they think of God. He can do absolutely anything. The second thing is that he is all good. So he always wants the best outcome for all things that he possibly can. And the problem is that, and there are ways to formulate the formal argument, and I had it up earlier, but I seem to have misplaced it. I'll get to it. Like Chesh says, I have 1 million more tabs than I should. But the short version of it is, if he's truly all-powerful, why do we have evil? And what a lot of people will say is, well, we have evil so that we can have free will, so that we can be taught, so that we can learn from having choices that have consequences. The problem with that is that, well, that sort of makes a lot of sense, and I understand. I learn from my consequences. An all-powerful God should necessarily find a way for us to learn all of those things without those consequences. Now, that may seem to violate logic, and I would argue that, in fact, it probably does. But an all-powerful God, ostensibly, and especially if you're going to get into any kind of presuppositionalism, God ostensibly created logic. He created the universe. He created all the laws of nature by which we are bound. So ostensibly, he is not bound by them, especially if you grant that he is all-powerful. He's not bound by them. He can break them at will. So if indeed he needs evil to accomplish any purpose at all, including, for example, free will, or to help us learn things, if evil is an end to that means, and he has no other way of doing it, he's not all-powerful. He's not all-powerful. He needs evil to teach us what he wants to teach us in the way he wants to teach us those things. If you say, well, now I lost my train of thought. Sorry. So if he needs evil, he's not all-powerful. If he is indeed all-powerful, then the only possible reason evil could exist, the only possible reason is for his pleasure. And I don't mean necessarily that he's a sadist and he enjoys watching us suffer, but it is, by that I mean for his at some level, he simply wants it. If it serves any utility that he cannot get by any other means, he is no longer all-powerful. You've seen it, can't be all-powerful. If he is all-powerful, then the only possible reason for evil to exist is because he wants it. That is the logical problem of evil, and says that he cannot be both all-powerful and all good. One must not be true, at a minimum.
All right, so let's look at let's look at well, there's a couple of different versions of the logical problem of evil. The Epicurus was the most basic one, and I have it on the screen here. He says this. He says, if God is willing to prevent evil but not able, then he's not omnipotent, right? So that means if he has the ability to prevent evil from occurring, and what we mean by evil here is very specific, and I know a lot of people might balk at this, but this is one of those things where you just have to accept this is the way it is in philosophy. You're not going to rewrite the books on these things, but the evil is some things that are bad, okay? Evil does not necessarily have to have intentionality. Evil does not have to have consciousness. If you stub your toe, that's evil. Women turning me down for dates, that's evil. Anything like that is just not good is considered to be evil. So there are natural evils, and then there's human-created evils. For example, a person stealing or a person doing something that is morally impermissible. Those would be considered evils as well. And there's different theodicies for addressing natural evils as opposed to non-natural evils, or what's called gratuitous evil. So the first thing that Epicurus basically is saying is that if God has the ability to prevent evil, but is not able, or if he is willing to, he has the want to, but is not able to, then obviously he's not omnipotent, right? You would agree with that premise, I would assume. Nick, right?
Yes.
Okay. And by the way, the logical problem of evil, before you get too deep in it, is not something that is a logical contradiction problem. It's not like saying A or not A. It's not like saying, Nick is Nick or Nick is not Nick. It's a system of premises that cannot be true all at the same time to have a logically consistent system.
There is actually a very good version. It's the one I had. I'll try to bring it up. That actually is
A direct logical contradiction?
Yeah, it leads to a necessary contradiction if all the premises are true. I'll get that up
Okay.
in a minute. So if you want to finish.
Yeah, there's. I think Draper has one like that. Actually,
it's a good one, and it's reasonably short, but it's
Modus
nice.
Tollens actually. He does a Modus Tollens version of it. Paul Draper does. If he is able but not willing, then he is malevolent. Basically, on this, would you agree that if God has the ability to do so, but he doesn't want to eradicate evil, then he has some kind of dystheism. He has some kind of malevolency to him. This is the one that's probably attacked the most, because like you were saying, if there's reasons why God wants something, whether it be a soul building exercise where what John Keats has basically said something along the lines of, hey, look, we are just these peons to God, and God wants us to understand things better. And by doing that, he has to expose us to things like evil, because we don't know what good is, right? So he has a higher purpose for
Can
that.
I maybe jump in and
Yes,
play a little
please.
bit of a devil's advocate?
That's what you're here for, you devil.
So if that is the case, then is it maybe possible that God doesn't actually necessarily give a crap about us as much as we necessarily decide if that is the case? Like, is it possible for God to be all of these things, and he allows evil to exist because he doesn't view it as evil because it's not evil to him, because it's just not relevant?
They can't. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Well, that's why I say the not all good. So in the Bible, he's referred to as all good and all love and all these things. So this one's a slightly different form of that argument. I prefer the all good argument to explicitly avoid that. And the all good argument is made in the Bible, that God is the essence of love. And there are people who don't, by the way, necessarily agree with that. And for various, so this isn't all Christians that feel that way, but I'm just saying, if that's your belief, here's where the argument is.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, I don't know if you're familiar with Plantinga's free will defense. He would argue that these attributes do exist to some degree, but that God wanted us to give us free will. And the way it would work would be, if God is going to give us free will, then this, for some reason, was best of all possible worlds. And if God could not create a world where man had free will, where he couldn't be exposed to evil, and so that possible world where we are not automatons. We have free will. There cannot logically be, according to Plantinga, a reality, a possible world where there cannot be evil. The evil must exist because you cannot have a perfectly good world where we don't have where we have free agency. Because as humans, we're going to do some fucked up shit. Okay.
But that's where, and this is where people start to, because then where I would take that is I would say, well, we can't because God has set it up that way. But since he's God and can do anything he wants to, he could have set up the universe such as.
So you think that God could make a possible world where things like that would be the case?
Well,
Yes.
we don't have to be humans, do we?
Okay, but we are humans. I mean, you're right. I mean, God didn't have to create humans; he could have created some kind of other thing. But is it possible to have a system where you have humans like us that have free agency and free will, which I believe doesn't exist, but assume arguendo that it does? Is it even possible to have a possible world where we have that and is an all good world? Is that something
No,
that's conceivable?
not in the universe as it's been set up. But if God is all powerful, and if again, because when people talk about like prime mover arguments, and they say, okay, the reason God is exempt from infinite causal regress is because he is outside the universe and the laws of nature do not apply to him. If the laws of nature do not apply to him, he did not need to set up the universe as it is. So when you say, well, gee, Nick, this isn't possible, you're correct. It's not possible, based on how this universe has been created. But an all-powerful God who created this universe, who created the laws of logic, and who did all of that could easily, if he is truly all-powerful, have created a universe or a reality in which that possible world does exist.
So
it can't the way we're set up. But
Well,
Yes.
it would almost have to be the case.
But I think that presents a problem, though, and the problem would be this: is that you're saying that all logically possible worlds are only logical possible worlds because God allows them to, but God can create illogical possible worlds as possible worlds. For example, if he wanted to create a world,
he could have.
you're saying if he
didn't.
wanted to create a world where a square circle exists, he could.
Yes.
See, I don't-
Necessarily. If he is all powerful, he necessarily must have had that
I
ability.
disagree, though.
So here's another argument which highlights this. And again, this is, at first I didn't get it, but once I got this, I was like, oh my God, this is a serious problem. All right, can God slice a piece of bread thinner than God himself could slice it? Now, to every living thing, to all philosophers of history, the answer would be no, because it's a logical contradiction. But to a being that is so powerful, it created logic. It created the universe. It created all things. It is that possible. Its intelligence is such that it's laughable that we're even trying to have this discussion and understand it. If it's that powerful, how can anyone possibly say, no, it can't violate the laws of logic at will? And in fact, it necessarily must by a number of Aquinas' arguments. So it seems to me that Christians have already granted that that's how powerful he is. And if that's how powerful he is, then once again, there's absolutely no reason for evil to exist, but he has chosen it.
But didn't they determine with the principle of eternal verities that God cannot do things that are logically impossible? Now, granted, that does make him beholden to things that are of a higher value than God himself. I mean, clearly, if God cannot do something illogical, then you're putting limits on him. No question about that. But most theists with the principle of eternal verities will say that limit is something that necessarily must exist. So if God is a metaphysical being that must exist in all possible worlds, it must also be the case that he must be logically consistent in all possible worlds. And by asking God to do something that is logically impossible, or something like, for example, if God is posited to be an all-powerful being, you cannot ask him to fail. This is the whole thing with the making a rock so heavy that you can't lift it. You can't say, hey God, make a rock so heavy that you can't lift it, because now you're basically saying, hey, I'm asking you to fail. I'm asking you to do something that you, by, I hate to say definition, but by what's positing of a God cannot do. God cannot fail by what's being posited by modern Christianity, I think historically as well. I mean, I don't know many people that think that the Christian God can fail at anything. It's impossible for him to fail. It's a metaphysical impossibility is what they're positing it as.
I think if he chose to, he could.
You think
but
so?
That gets into, I agree that you get into the same logical problem, but I have two answers to that. The first is, if that's something that somebody is really going to adopt, I'm okay with that. But I would argue then you are not, it's not capable of doing absolutely anything. So I think you've given up on the all-powerful, because you now have given it limits. You've given God limits, and by the way, limits which, as you pointed out, supersede God, which limits would necessarily have to do anyway. And this is where I find that the dissonance with Christians that I discuss with this, because they inherently don't like saying that, but on the flip side, that's the only way that I can find around this argument. Now, if you're willing to do it, great, then this problem fails. You're absolutely right. But I found a lot don't want to do that. Now, there are Christians who are happy to go there and who say, no, God cannot do a logical impossible.
Right.
Okay, great. And that's why this is not a defeater to God. And in fact, there was a guy, I wrote his name down, and I got to stop looking in the live chat. Someone in the live chat who got upset and said, well, gee, why does everybody, only atheists think God is all-powerful, and they try to kill God with this argument? Nobody's trying to do that, because, this isn't a defeater to all possible gods and everything that the people have thought of when they think about gods. It's only, in my mind, a defeater to people who make two claims. And if you make those two claims, I think you've got a problem. Now, if you don't, this is meaningless. This is just an academic exercise. But so I think, once again, I would argue that if you do make those two claims, as to being able to violate the laws of logic are simply how we understand the universe. And if God created that system, it seems to me he should easily be able to, at a minimum, how we would perceive it, violate the laws of logic. I mean, it's almost
again,
sort of...
Yeah, to throw out the devil's advocate, you're making the assumption that we actually have a proper understanding.
Well, I would push back two ways, actually. One, first of all, the laws of logic, some of them don't even hold in other forms of logic. They just hold in classical logic, right? I mean, paraconsistent logic and theism, you don't even have to have law of absolute and law of non-contradiction. The only one that seems to be indubitable would be the law of identity. So the other two, there's different types of logic where they don't hold. You don't have to use them. Fair enough. But if you're allowing for things like a logical contradiction, would you also allow for things like God just cease to be God if you so choose? Because most theists, and again, going back to the principle of eternal verity, this is where they were thinking about this problem. They're like, wait a minute. If God is all powerful and God is a metaphysical necessity that must exist, right? Because a metaphysical necessity is something that exists in all modal possible worlds, right? I mean, there's no possible world where God cannot exist if he's a metaphysical necessity. That's Plantinga's ontological argument, right? If God exists in one possible world, he must exist in all. So can God, as a metaphysical necessity, if he existed as such, could he cease to be? The theist would have to argue no. It would be a logical problem, because then he's no longer a metaphysical contradiction, a metaphysical necessity.
Yeah.
I mean, you immediately run into the issue that if you're gonna engage in this kind of conversation, it's really easy to just be like, well, our rules of logic don't apply.
But can God stop being God then?
Well, yeah, because he's Schrodinger's God.
But
he
if that,
exists
by the
and
way,
doesn't exist
but
at the same time.
But that would violate the
Didn't he do that with
metaphysical
Jesus?
necessity.
Yeah, but only from our perspective. God doesn't follow our rules.
But
And
I think you're missing the point.
He change the rules at will.
But he's
So there's two things. We
But
don't know that we know the rules, and even if we did, he could change them at will.
But you would agree at that point he's no longer a metaphysical necessity then. If God doesn't need to be, he's not, by definition, I hate using that, but in this particular case, metaphysical necessity is a mathematical thing. It's not just like linguistics.
By our rules and understanding, yes.
But and you see, that's the thing, because again,
But
Steve,
now you
you're
have the
defining-
contradiction though. Not God.
No, because I think what Shesh is saying, and I would agree with her on this, is no, because again, he can violate that as well and both be a metaphysical necessity and not one at the same time. And if you
So
say
a really
no,
good
he
example
can't
of this-
because
Yeah,
that's
I don't think a theist is going to agree with that. I don't think a theist is going to say that.
I'm sure they wouldn't.
Yeah, I
Some
wouldn't,
would,
because
I'd say.
that is, you're literally saying that God is a logical contradiction and defining him out of existence in classical logic, and as such, if you accept a logical contradiction like that, you could literally prove anything. Like literally prove anything.
Really
It's called the principle of
Are you guys-
explosion.
We gotta let Chesh go. She's getting worked up. She has to say
Damn it,
something.
Chesh!
Are you guys
Now you're making me
familiar?
antsy here, man. I thought it was going to be a friendly conversation, but now I'm going to
I don't
task.
think it is friendly.
Okay, I love you. Go ahead.
So, are you
It's,
guys familiar with the Flash?
And once
pointer?
again, thank you, Dave McGinnis. I gave him props. He wasn't here earlier for the layout. He did 95% of this work. I did 5%. Thank you.
Are you guys familiar with the Flash and the way the Flash operates within his comic book universe?
I know he has a multiverse.
Vaguely.
Yeah, like Earth 1 or
so-
2. Yeah.
For anybody who's unfamiliar, the Flash essentially, as soon as the Flash became the Flash, he created something called the Speed Force throughout time, backwards and forwards.
I thought the Speed Force created him.
Yes. and he created the Speed Force.
Oh, okay.
It's both. So the thing is he became the Flash, but the Speed Force is a necessity for the way the world operates, but it came into being both backwards and forwards in time at the same time.
Okay.
Which makes no sense.
Well, and that's, I mean, this is why, again, once I listen, I had heard the problem of evil. Oh, and I did bring up, and I probably close it. No, I'll give the actual argument that leads to a contradiction. I brought it up, and I'll give that one. But I'd heard the problem of evil thousands of times. It wasn't until about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago.
He wasn't the first Flash. You're
Yeah,
correct. It wasn't even
there's been a
the
couple
first
Flashes.
Flash that did this. It was Barry Allen, who wasn't even the first. So there was a Flash that existed in the past before the Speed Force existed, because the Speed Force started existing in time both ways.
Barry Allen wasn't the first Flash. Yes.
And I want to remind people, where else on YouTube are you going to get high-end philosophy and the strong comic book background and genre and just like all combined into one? What was I going? Oh yeah. So when I first heard of it, I laughed off the problem of evil for a number of reasons. And then when I sat there and said, well, wait a minute, he must. It seems like he couldn't possibly violate the laws of logic, but he ostensibly made those laws, so he must ostensibly be able to change them at will. If he can create absolutely everything, then he is subject to nothing, which is often how he's described, which means he can do the logical. Now, can we understand it? No, but we've got, I mean, take an ant and how much you're aware of really the ant's life and how the ant's intelligence is related to you. Magnify that by 1 billion, and you're starting to get, there is horrible. Where's that?
I think it's Chesh. Yeah, that was Chesh.
Yeah, that was Chesh.
Nope. She's still making a noise even though it's not her mic. I don't know. It's not on my end. Chesh, mute for a sec. Completely mute. Hard mute. Yeah, it's her.
Yeah, that was her.
By the way, this was going to be a nice casual conversation, but now you're making me break out the good stuff here because we're having philosophical talk. So, yeah, I'm going to have my scotch, books, Nick and Chesh. Man, my dream came true.
The good stuff.
This is like my Saturday fantasy right here. Look, I am. Yeah.
The good stuff is
That's
in
so
my
good,
in my case in the back there, but it's actually, I think,
what is that? What do you got?
But I go with the Suntory.
Ooh, nice.
And it is 43% alcohol, and the reason for the extra 3% is so that you can put water in it, and it's made to go with ice so that you can.
This is not. This is 40. You don't put water in.
Am I okay?
Yeah, you sound good.
You guys hear me now?
Yeah.
All right.
You
Yeah, no, I was getting notes in the chat that I was.
I don't know if
low,
you're okay.
So I tried to adjust it.
Yeah, you don't put
Okay,
water.
No, I'm not okay, but the sound.
Just FYI, you don't put water in Johnny Walker Black. It's 40%. Other scotches, you can put a splash of water in, it kind of heightens it. But this is actually supposed to be drinking neat. So Maker's Mark, you put water in. Matter of fact, Maker's Mark used to be 43%, but then they diluted it down like 41%, I think, or something, 40% because they ran out. And so they diluted it down to have more quantity, and nobody noticed. Yeah, I think it was Maker's Mark.
Do you put ice in it?
No, not this stuff. I prefer scotch on ice, but this is actually good neat.
All right, so here's the here's the problem of evil, and this one is the logical contradiction, and I'll go through it reasonably rapidly here. Number 1, God exists. That's the first premise. 2, God is omnipotent, omnibenevolent, and omniscient. 3, an omnipotent being has the power to prevent evil from coming into existence. 4, an omnibenevolent being would want to prevent all evils. 5, an omniscient being knows every way in which evil can come into existence and knows every way in which those evils can be prevented. 6, a being which knows every way in which evil can come into existence, who is able to prevent that evil from coming into existence, and who wants to do so, would prevent the existence of that evil. 7, if there exists an omnipresent, omnibenevolent, and omniscient God, then no evil exists. 8, evil exists. That's the logical contradiction.
Yeah, well, I mean, I that's very similar to Paul Davies' modus tollens that he has actually, but there's a hidden premise in these things. There's like a linking premise that God prefers this possible world out of all of them. right? I mean, if he created this actual world, right? If this was the one that he becomes actualized, out of all the possible worlds that he could have done, I think there's a hidden premise there
Yes.
that this is the one that he must have wanted, because this is the one that is actualized. It wouldn't make sense for him to actualize this world if he wanted some other world. That is an additional premise. Would you agree? I would call it a hidden
No.
premise.
It's not. It's actually part of the original premise because, once again, what I had said was then evil exists for his pleasure. This is the world he wanted. Exactly.
Okay, so he
cannot
fair
be all
enough.
good.
Because this one, the one you said is more explicitly stated, but in Epicurus and other ones, it's not really explicitly stated that God would have preferred this possible world. So then the question becomes, one, why does God particularly want this actualized possible world? What is it about this one that was the best? There's two possible things I can think of. One, that he was beholden to something that made this one the best, right? For example,
Yes.
he wants to make it the best possible.
Kind of desire.
He has a desire to say, okay, we want to, like Keats' soul building exercise. He wants Cheshire
Beholden and a
to
desire
learn.
is a different thing.
What?
Is it beholden or is it beholden and desire are two different things? So is it beholden? You said.
You could be beholden.
Well, you said that he was beholden.
Beholden
Could
means
be
that he's
both.
obligated to.
Yes, and that's not a desire.
That's not a desire.
So an
He could
obligated-
be a beholden
yeah.
to not to have the desire. He could desire something else, but be beholden to the fact that, hey, this is the real complexity comes in. If God wants everybody to be good, right? If God is omnibenevolent and does not want there to be sin, his desire is for that. However, when it comes to Plantinga's free will offense and Keats's soul building theodicy, the argument then goes, even though God's desire is that he wants people to have free will and live sin-free and there be no sin in the world, he recognizes there must be sin in order to have a choice. And if you don't have choice, you can't have free will. So he's beholden to us having free will. But then it raises the question, why do we have to have free will?
Well, or what? But again, if he's beholden, you've just violated the first premise as I laid it out, which is that God is omnipotent. He's no longer omnipotent if he is beholden.
Yeah, and
So
well,
you
that's
just
fair enough. That's
violated that one.
that's one of the two horns there. One is either he's beholden to something that is a higher value than he is, therefore he's obligated to do it that way. Two, it seems to be arbitrary. Why if there's no reason why God created this actual world over something else, it seems arbitrary if you don't know the reasons. It certainly doesn't satisfy the principle of sufficient reason, for sure.
Can I throw a wrench in?
Isn't that what you're here for?
Yeah, is it that exactly?
You have
yeah.
one job. And that's why you're in the middle of us.
Yes.
Look at
It should just throw wrenches.
If you haven't noticed
just
the way-
little logic bombs.
Exactly. If you haven't noticed
What
the way I have this set
Grenades.
up, I'm taking one approach, right? Because I'm just kind of being kind of a devil's advocate from theodicies. He's on the bottom here, so he's doing the logical problem of evil. You're in the middle. You're like the go-between. You're the mediator here.
Gotcha. So, what if there's more than one?
What,
Oh
God?
Chash, that's it. I'm
Wait,
leaving.
what, more than one what? What are you, ocean?
Oh, God, this is not polytheism. Oh,
I'm
no.
not talking about I'm not necessarily talking
No.
about polytheism. I'm more talking.
Oh,
like
you're talking about more than one God that isn't polytheism. That
Well,
clears it up
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot.
exactly.
Well, theoretically,
Sorry.
there'd only be one all-powerful God. It wouldn't make. I mean, there has to be a maximally great being, and if a maximally great being would be the one that's above all others,
Well,
not maximally great beings.
Okay, well, what bird is the best at being a bird?
Well, let's let Chesh finish. I just wanted to give her a hard time. But so what are you trying to
I was
say
going
when
through, like,
you're not
the
giving a hard
queue.
time? Yeah.
So
Oh,
you've got-
okay. Yeah.
right? So you've got essentially these what would be considered maximally powerful beings. Now you might be able to like gauge them based on like, oh, this one's a little bit faster than this one is, or this one's a little bit slower than this one is. So like judging which one is going to be the quote unquote most powerful one isn't necessarily going to be part of the equation. But you've got a handful of these creatures or these beings that are so powerful that they all may or may not have influence on these things, or may or may not have influence on each other. So I'm more just throwing a wrench in, being like, well, we're only talking about one, but
Well, that's
we're
because
making
this
the
is
assumption,
this is supposed to be
right?
if you're looking from a monotheistic point of view, we're looking at it from the perspective that if there's going to be a maximally great being, there can only be one. Look at it, if God has something called divine simplicity, right, which is that he has no moving parts, he's one unit, right? There's nothing to divisible when it comes to God. Again, I'm speaking as hypothetically from a theist point of view.
Ooh, that's a really good point.
Yeah, so if
And
he
God
is
create a duplicate of himself.
well, no, because it would be the same entity. Here's the thing: there's something called the indiscernibility or distinguishing of indiscernibilities, and if you have the inability to distinguish between one property and another property of something, then they are the same unit. They're the same thing. So if you have a maximally great being, right, and you have another maximally great being with exactly the same properties, they're indistinguishable from each other. There's the indiscernibility does not exist there because they are identical. Does that make sense?
But can they be identical but want different things?
No, because they're not. Then
Oh.
there's not. They're not identical any longer. They are distinguishable from each other.
But yeah, well, no, I was going to try to give some examples either from relativity or quantum mechanics, but well, no, okay, what was I thinking? No, I'll stay away from that. I did want to get to the cube for a second because actually I was thinking about that very example when we were talking about logical contradictions. So Q in the Star Trek universe seems to be able to do just about anything. I mean, I'm thinking of there was a Voyager episode where they're chasing each other through every possible medium you can imagine. One of them just says, "Okay, that's it. I'm going to hide where he can't find me," and he turns the whole ship into a Christmas ornament in a Christmas tree, and some kids, whatever, 300 years in the past. Now, are these contradictions? Yes. Are they logical contradictions? Not necessarily, but if you consider the God of Abraham to be far more powerful than even that, and we can't comprehend. It's a fictional show, but here's a creature of such immense power can bring people back to life, at will can create new life.
But he's still not a maximally great being, though. I mean,
he is not,
Q has limits.
Sort of my point, which is, and he's already to the point where he seems almost capable of creating a logical contradiction. He can change just about anything. He can do things we can't fathom. So why wouldn't a creature even more powerful than that, the God of Abraham, who is supposed to be far more powerful even than Q, the notion that he can't break the laws of logic, even the most fundamental ones as we understand them, seems silly to me.
Yeah,
indeed, the original premise would say he could.
Yeah, but I don't think it makes sense to posit a being that can have logical contradictions. By the way, I turned down my mic in a little bit because you guys two are low, so hopefully mine would be brought down. Because again,
I'd probably say that Steve, functionally, for like functionally day to day, yeah, absolutely, you're correct. But if we're talking about what we can posit.
Well, and I think whether they know it or not, that is what the original God of Abraham was sort of supposed to be in a Christian sense. And as they've thought about it, they've tweaked it, and far fewer people would accept, for the reasons you're saying, they would accept it that way. But one of the reasons is because of arguments like this. And I think that is, in fact, what they're positing, whether or not it makes sense. That's the point of the logical problem.
Yeah, God's also gotten more powerful.
Well, the whole point of the logical problem is that the premises can all be true at the same time and have be a logically consistent system. But let's look at something that would be logical, like when it goes back to the indiscernibilities of identities. If I'm looking at something and I'm saying, indiscernibility of identicals, okay, the indiscernibilities of identicals, these are hard things to say, people, would say that if you have a God that can do all these different things, and exists at the same time, space, time, whatever. Everything about this, every metric you can use for that deity. If some other deity existed with those exact same properties, they would be no way to discern between them. They would be the same being. So if a maximally great being exists, it would be like, there's no possible way there could be anything like that other than what it is, because anything that is exactly like it, with the same identicals, would be it. So there can only be one maximally great being. Unless you're saying now all of a sudden that in logic we're going to have a whole bunch of maximally great beings. Like for example, it's like saying how many people can win first place? Well, only one, because there only be one first place winner, right? But you're saying
that's not true, because there can be a draw.
That's not first place then. It's a draw.
That's not first place, yeah.
Oh, okay.
A priori, only one person can win first place.
Right.
But, okay, but what I would argue, here's the point, which is God necessarily is outside of logic. In the same way that he is beyond our understanding, according to the Bible, repeatedly, he cannot be understood, and then they proceed to tell us how to understand him. Nonetheless, the idea is we cannot even begin to fathom him. He is beyond everything we have. That must, in my mind, necessarily include logic. And why wouldn't it if he's the one who made logic?
Well, have you met a theist to posit that?
What I've met is, I haven't met any to posit that. I've made this exact argument time and time again, and usually and in fact, I was doing this exact argument, and the conversation came to a dead standstill at that point. They said, that's a really great point. That's what they said. That's a great point. I said, okay, I appreciate that. What's your answer? Never heard back. Actually, they said,
Yeah,
well, have a good show tonight.
I would give you pushback on that. I just don't think, honestly, that's a good argument. I don't think it's a good argument to try to say to a theist, hey, look at, I'm going to allow for a God that can create logical contradictions, because at that point, you're not really positing what the theist is actually submitting. I don't know if, I mean, at least my experience, I don't know of any theist that has ever said God can do impossible things that are logically impossible. Miracles, yes, but those are not logical impossibilities. This is something way back when people didn't seem to understand. When I said, hey, look at, it is not logically impossible for God to raise people from the dead. We can conceive it. It is something that is logically possible, may not be biologically possible or even physically possible. But these are the difference between a physical impossibility and a logical impossibility, right? And some people, for some reason, don't understand there's a distinct difference between them. But if you're going to allow for logical contradictions, you're basically, you're no longer even, at that point, you're not able to even use logic to analyze things like the logical problem of evil. You're just saying classical logic is shit at that point.
Well, you're saying that God is capable of violating the logic. We can still use the process to, but it's the same thing as when a Christian sits there and says, well, we can't judge when God, it's very similar to divine command theory. You're right. I haven't even been drinking all that much, and I can't even speak. We talk about divine command theory, the idea that because God is so much beyond our understanding, whatever God commands is necessarily good. So if he says, I want you to murder your son just right here and now, you'll have to do it because you can't possibly conceive of why he would say it. He is necessarily good, and by actually commanding it, it becomes good. And by that
it depends on the notion, that depends on what horn of the Euphrod dilemma you take.
Well, I agree, but again, keep in mind, I'm not trying to apply this to any and all gods. What happens usually is when people want to engage me on the problem of evil, I say, okay, can he do anything? They say yes. I say, okay, this is what I think of when you say do anything. That must, in my mind, necessarily include violating the laws of logic.
No, I disagree with that. I think that they put that stipulation on there, and because I think you're just defining God out of existence stipulatively, and I think that's something like we see Aaron Rod do it often. I was like, Aaron has a brilliant argument, and he just put it in a blog the other day, and it goes along the lines of, miracles violate the laws of physics. Laws of physics cannot be violated. Therefore, God cannot exist because God cannot violate the laws of physics. There was something ridiculously of that. I mean, that is essentially saying God cannot exist because God cannot exist, and definitionally and stipulatively just eliminating even the existence of God, which to me is so kindergarten level. It just boggles my mind as somebody would think that's a good argument.
It's not ontological. It's basically the reverse ontological argument.
Yeah, it's
trying to dedefine.
Yes, exactly. I pointed that out too. You're exactly right. This is exactly what is the opposite. It's the anti-theist version of the theist argument. Because theist. No. Well, let me correct that. I'm going to correct that. I don't actually think that the modal ontological argument is defining God into existence. I've heard that argument, and I used to think that. Having a lot more discussions with more people, I'm changing that a little bit. I don't think it actually really does, although I can see the point on that. But it's the same thing that atheists do decry from theists going, oh, look, they're defining God into existence. Well, how's that any different than what I see atheists do? They're trying to define God out of existence. It doesn't work that way either way, if that was the case.
But keep in mind, though, what you were talking about how and why this argument, as I'm positing it, the problem of evil wouldn't work. But I agree with you. That's kind of half my point. So I say, listen, in my mind, a God that is all-powerful must be able to violate the laws of logic. If they sit there and say right there, no, God cannot violate the laws of logic. He cannot do a contradiction. Done. The argument's over. I have only 2 or 3 times when I've ever engaged on this level actually had someone say that. Most of them refuse to say that he cannot violate the laws. If he says that, Steve, you're right. It's done. The discussion's over. This argument hinges on that premise.
Yeah, well, but, I mean, most philosophers, they don't really...
so few willing to do it.
They don't really put much stock in the logical problem of evil. I know Alston does it, and I know... who was it? Mackey does it. Most philosophers don't really think logical problem of evil is that big a deal, and I agree. It's not really that big of a deal because most theists are not going to posit that type of deity, right? So it's not going to be something that's going to be like, oh, look at this. But it is a small stepping stone to justifying atheism over a period of time with multiple different arguments. But I think the last one here, if we can get to it real quick, Nick, this one is actually interesting. Because what Epicurus and a few other people have argued, if these things are the case, right? If he is neither able nor willing, then why call him God?
Yes.
Why is he worthy of worship? Because I think it's a very, very philosophical question, right?
I think that's a very different question about whether or not he can and whether or not why would he, right?
Well, I mean, who was it? And I can't remember his name. It was Dostoevsky wrote about him, but I can't remember the name. It was the Kirchhoff's brothers or something, where the guy was giving his ticket back to heaven because he was like,
the brothers Karamazov.
Brothers Karamazov. Thank you.
It wasn't Elisha. It was his other brother. It was Elisha's eldest brother.
But it was Dostoevsky,
gave it back
right?
and said, yes, it was Dostoevsky. And the brother said...
He's a philosopher, dude. This is why he's a philosopher. He knows this stuff.
Oh, jeez. I'm trying to forget. I got to remember what the brother said. Something about...
I don't paraphrase.
Yeah. No, I'm just giving him back the ticket. I'm not... oh, Jesus. I'm going to look it up.
He basically... I didn't read the story, but I know of it. Last time I did, looking at the problem of evil, it went something along the lines of, evil exists, and if God is a being that allows evil to exist, then he's basically has some kind of malevolence to him. He is not all good. Therefore, he's not a being worthy of worship. Therefore, he giving his ticket back to heaven, he's giving it away. Yep. Now, the argument counter to that is, and because I don't think that he puts forth a very good argument on that, because the counter of that is, do you want to spend eternity in hell on principle? I don't think most people would. I think most people would go, nah, you know what, God, he's pretty good. Well, no, because I disagree.
Yes.
Let me explain why. We all have had parents, right? Biological units that have parents. Parents can be shitty. They're not perfect. But it's still better to have a parent that's not perfect than have no parents whatsoever in most of the cases. So
I'm going to straight up be the example of I would not go to heaven on principle alone. I don't give a shit.
But you just said earlier that you don't know all the facts. Maybe there's something about God you don't know. If God's going, look at Chesh, just
because I might not know all of the information about what's going on with Kyle right now, does that mean I think he's not wrong?
What happens if God said, look, Chesh, you're actually the only person that actually exists. Nobody else exists except for you. It's solipsism. And so nobody else had felt pain, and everything pain that you felt was just your imagination. You didn't experience it.
The principles have changed because there isn't any suffering that's going on.
Right, but then then you could say, oh well, God didn't allow for actual suffering, therefore it's cool to get in. So you're saying if God does allow suffering at any kind, he's not a God worthy of worship.
Yes.
Okay.
If you've got a God that is like, you know what, babies have AIDS, and also rape is a thing, and you know what.
Shit happens. Yeah, bad shit happens.
Shit happens.
Yeah.
And if you have a God, if this God's answer isn't, oh, I just turned it on and let it run, the answer is absolutely not. I would rather be in hell, particularly if you're going to describe the Bible, like the biblical Old New Testament version of heaven, because it sounds awful.
I don't know, man. First of all, I don't think the whole concept of hell is makes sense to me, and I think that most of it is something that was
really
added.
Poorly defined.
It was added in much later on.
Yeah,
I totally am convinced of that. But it is a question. Would that God, if that God existed, be worthy of worship?
I would kind of actually want to go to hell on principle of if it is full solipsism and a God's just fucking with me, why would I want to spend eternity with him? What a prick.
Well, actually, that's the. Okay, so this is
that's what Dostoevsky kind of wrote about, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, this is the quote. It's a bit of a long one, but I think it's worth the whole quote. While there is still time, I hasten to protect myself, and so I renounce the higher harmony altogether. It is not worth the tears of that one tortured child who beat itself on the breast of its with its little fist and prayed to its sinking outhouse with its
unexplicable.
A hard time. Unexpected tears to quote,
unexpedited.
Dear kind, unexpedited. Thank you. Quote, dear kind God, it's not worth it because those tears are unatoned for. They must be atoned for, or there can be no harmony. I don't want harmony. From love or humanity, I don't want it. I would rather be left with the unravaged suffering. I would rather remain my unavenged. I would rather remain with my unavenged suffering and unsatisfied indignation, even if I were wrong. Besides, it's too high a price. Besides, too high a price is asked for harmony. It is beyond our means to pay so much to enter it, and so I hasten to give back my entrance ticket. And if I am an honest man, I am bound to give back as soon as possible. And that I am doing. It is not God I do not accept, Alicia, only that I must respectfully return him the ticket.
Yeah, exactly.
I am chaotic neutral. Don't tell me what to do.
Yeah, I mean, I get the sentiment, right? But I think the sentiment might be a little over the top when you're comparing.
I'm too indignant.
Well, when
myself.
you're comparing eternal damnation, again hypothetical, to, hey, you know what? Would you rather live eternity plush with a deity that is some malevolence, but not all malevolence? I mean, again, even if it's not completely omnibenevolent, it's still got to be better than to an all evil being that's in hell reigning over you, torturing you. I can't imagine anybody choosing that willfully just out of some kind of moral principle, because at that point, does anybody care a shit what you think? Does anybody care about your taking a moral stance? You're talking about eternity now. Now, I'm a moral and I'm an ethical kind of guy, but even I have to say, I don't think you're doing a service to anybody by taking a moral stance of that nature.
All the cool people are going to be in hell.
First of all, Cheshire's going to be in hell,
Well,
so that's gotta tip the scales a bit.
If you're
I'm
in
not saying
heaven,
it's necessarily.
if you're in heaven,
Oh, I see
and
what's coming.
and everything is great, right? Everything's really good. Then shouldn't you have the ability to go down to hell and visit people anytime you want and go party with them? If that would be like your choice?
No, it's eternal. Well, I mean, it depends on what philosophy you're going to follow when it comes to that, or theology, sorry, not philosophy. Because sometimes it's just separation from God, and sometimes it's torture. But no, you don't get to go visit. That's not a thing. You don't get to spend like a week.
Why not? Why not? Who made that rule?
Right?
Yeah, who made that rule,
contradiction.
Chess? You don't make my rules for eternity.
Well, you'll have to take it up with God.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think there's a couple questions I'm sure people would love to ask God. I'm sure that's kind of one of them. So let's look
many questions.
So let's look at kind of like Plantinga's free will defense, because I do think, and I hate to say it, and people are going to say, well, look at Steve, he's a theistic apologist. No, but I do give credit where credit is due. Plantinga does make a really good argument for his theodicy, for the natural evil defense. I think it is a really good argument. However, it only works to a limited degree. It doesn't explain gratuitous or natural evil. But his premise would be something along the lines of, if God is willing to prevent evil but not able to, then he's impotent, which I would agree. But Plantinga's free will argument goes, God is not able to do the things logically impossible, which you would disagree with, Nick. You're saying that you think God would be. Okay. Human freedom may be incompatible with the prevention of evil. So his argument, from what I'm reading of Plantinga before, was that it is impossible to have a world that exists that you can have human freedom or free will without evil existing in it. There's no such thing as a free willed possible world that is 100% good. They are logically incapable of existing coextensively or cotemperously. So that would be all Plantinga has to do is come up with one possible defeater. All he has to do is come up for his theodicy, a scenario where it's plausible, not even, it has to be like over the top, just plausible, where the logical problem evil is defeated by something along the lines of a free will theodicy. And I think that he does do that. But he also says, would we want our children to be perfect robots? Because if you have a possible world where you do not have free will, right, you have no choice, you would be basically automatons, right?
No.
And what good would that do? What even there'd be no soul building exercise at that point, right? So even Keats's argument would be gone, because what are you learning if you have no choice? God created a rock, just a world full of rocks, and it would have been the same exact thing if you're just an automaton with no choice. Now, I do think we have will. I think we have choice, but that's not the same thing as libertarian free will. There is a distinction to be made there. So I'm I'm a compatibilist, but I am not a libertarian free will. I believe in determinacy or soft determinacy.
Determinism.
Yeah, not hard determinacy. And I'm not even really like, it's like one of those things where it's the lesser of a couple evils. Compatibilism is the only one that I could think of that even seems to make sense, but even then that doesn't make sense. So
you see, but what I find interesting about this, now, if The first premise here is God is not able to do the logically impossible. The fact that he felt compelled to put that as a premise means that my argument that God can violate laws of logic must be being used, and he is now precluding that in this argument. But normally that would go without saying. The fact that he actually has to say that here suggests that this is an argument that is considered, at least by him, to be a argument worth addressing, my argument of the logic, because otherwise he would not have put that line in there.
Okay.
I would agree with the second and third premise, absolutely, and that makes perfect sense. And that is usually why people dismiss the problem of evil so easily. And again, why I always did. And then, when I really started to think about it, I was like, well, wait a minute. I can find no reason that anyone could argue that makes any sense to me that God should not or would not be able to violate the laws of logic if he is literally the creator of absolutely everything.
I just
that makes
don't.
no sense to me.
I disagree.
So
I do think the principle of eternity verities comes through on that. That it doesn't make much sense to posit a deity or being that can violate the laws of logic to that degree. Like, for example, to say in classical logic God can exist and not exist at the same time, or can just stop being God. It just doesn't make sense to me, because if that's the case, then you're literally saying that you can prove anything with classical logic, and you have the principle of explosion, in which case your entire argument is moot, because you're saying classical logic no longer works because you can prove anything.
No, you're saying there is one case that is exempt from that, and that's God.
That's special
now,
pleading.
You do have a problem. Well, and you'd have another problem, which is then someone could always say, well, God did it, and then you could get out of just about any other argument. So I admit that that's a problem. But first of all, I haven't. What you're arguing is what, in my mind, I already see in Christianity. I don't see why they would argue or posit half the things they do. So in my mind, this is not a qualitative difference. It's a quantitative one. This is just slightly more, a little more over the top than they might already be positing. And second of all, I think many of them who don't think about this in a philosophical sense, but just go day to day, most of them actually do believe that God could violate.
That might be true. They might believe that.
My experience.
Yeah.
So
but they may not say it.
Yeah, I don't think they've necessarily formalized it, which is why when I discuss this, that's where I say that. I say, look, can he violate the laws of logic? And if he can, this is where you've got the problem. And I would imagine that he would have to. Now, you're right. It doesn't necessarily make sense to me that someone would posit that, but it doesn't make sense to me that someone would posit the flood, posit the Exodus, when you take a look at what that would entail. I don't understand why anyone would posit any of those things. So
I think a lot of them are out there as well, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think that's necessarily. We're talking a quantitative difference, not a qualitative.
Utopia Buster asked,
Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, he says, how does God make a merry bachelor? Well, actually, believe it or not, I actually, on my blog, www.greatcommunity.com, I actually give an example of a married bachelor, believe it or not. That I have the head of the UCLA Long Beach.
Oh, you would.
Yeah.
So
Dr. William Zemer, he is the head of Cal State Long Beach, that I know, because I'm friends with his wife. She went to my high school. But he actually read it. He thought it was really good. And I actually explained by using paraconsistent logic. What I did was I took Stanford Encyclopedia's example, and then I just explained it in a more basic way, that you could have an example of a married bachelor outside of classical logic using a different form of logic called paraconsistent, because that's only by analytical distinction is married bachelor something that's a contradiction. But if you allow for a contradiction, a true contradiction without principle explosion in Tao theism, you can actually have a married bachelor. It's really confusing. But go read my blog on it. And by the way, I put my last blog post in the video description as well. My very long response to Mr. Raw, who by the way, I love Raw. I do. I know he's got beef with me, and I'm sorry that he does. It's a shame. I think the world of him. He just sucks at philosophy. But hey, he can say I suck at biology. I'm okay with that. But I miss having drinks with him. I hope one day that he comes around and we can go out and have a beer together. I think the world of him. I have no disrespect for him whatsoever. He just sucks at philosophy, and he sucks at the topics of atheism. And what am I going to do? I'm not going to give him a pass. I'm not going to say, oh look, he's R and Raw, therefore whatever he says is golden, because I'm sorry, his blog to Mr. Agnostic was shit. It was absolute crap. It has so many problems and so many errors. Everybody who I know who read it, who knows philosophy, has said the same thing. If you think otherwise and you're a philosopher, please come in. I'll be happy to talk to you by all means. But so far, I have not seen anybody who read that and goes, oh, crap. They thought it was at a kindergarten level. And I wish he just would stop. And he said he's going to. He said he's going to stop doing it. This is his last thing. Thank God. This allows me to continue with my arguments and unaffected. So I'm happy with that. But if you want to go read that blog, it's in the video description. Let me know what you think of it. And that was one of the longest responses I've ever had to anybody. But it is polemical, by the way. I wrote it as slightly as a polemic. So
I have not. I'd like to. There's a couple of things because I'm going to be doing the Ken Hovind debate. I kind of wanted to chat with Aaron Raw, and I tagged in on a couple. He's a busy guy, and he doesn't know me from Adam. So I've have bumped into each other once or twice and chatted briefly for a number of reasons. But and then I told you, I said, listen, could you do? This was on Twitter. You may remember I said, oh, listen, could you hook me up and just do an intro for me? And you're like, yeah, no, he's blocked me. I was like, really? Like, really, Steve?
Arn blocked you?
No, he blocked you.
Oh yeah.
So I couldn't, and then I'm sitting there going, I think I'm going to do a lot better if I'm just going to tell people I am blocked by Steve, and I'm going to make so many more friends faster.
I don't get it, because here's the thing. Look at Arn will take on Theist, right? He'll take on low hanging fruit. He'll take on Hovind. And by the way, I heard a couple people go on Hovind and lost, like Godless Engineer. Go figure. But he has never once offered to talk to me about this issue one-on-one with a moderator or mediator on this topic. I don't get it. If he's so cocksure that his position is correct, why wouldn't he just come to me either off air or even on air and say, hey, Steve, let's have a discussion with this. Let's talk about it. That's what I do, right? I am confident in my position. I know this position fairly decently. I'd like to think as a layperson, I probably know more about the topic than most other lay people. I'm willing to have the conversation and put my cards on the table and my evidence and my arguments and my logic and my reason. He thinks things like not B, not P is a double negation. And that's the level that we're talking about. And it's like, how do you talk logic to somebody who doesn't understand what a double negation actually is, right? So it's very difficult to have a conversation with Arn because he's starting from such a base level that I feel like he has to throw things out there and sees what sticks, even though he doesn't know what shit he's throwing out there. And I love Arn, I really do. I'm not trying to talk crap about him.
Well, there's two things about this. Is one that you were more than generous when we were talking about this article off air. When you said you were going to do a show about it, you had said, or you were going to write a blog about it. You had said that this is kind of passive aggressive. That article is not passive aggressive. That article is aggro AF.
Yeah, no, I it's one of those things where. I think it was passive aggressive and some parts of it passive aggressive, parts of it were mostly aggro. But it was a little insulting to me. There's no question about it, right? I mean, well, first of all, yeah. I'm not a self-described philosopher. I'm not a philosopher. I've never. Nick, have you ever heard me refer to myself as a philosopher? Because if I have, I don't recall.
No,
it.
You have not. Okay. And in fact, I would call you a philosopher before you would call yourself a philosopher. I have noted that.
I like philosophy, and I think as a layperson, I tend to do pretty well at it because I actually read the material and think that I comprehend it fairly well. And the people that do know about these topics tend to guide me on it. And that's one of the biggest advantages I have is I go to the people that know their shit. I get guidance, right? I mean, if you want to learn math, don't you think you should go to a mathematician who can say, hey, look, you want to learn math and you're a layperson in math, let's kind of explain to you how to do these calc problems, right? That's how you learn, right? That's how I've learned philosophy, with people that do know the topic. And he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to go to people that know the topic. I don't get that.
All right. It has been a sincere pleasure. Thank you all very much. I do need to get going. Have a good evening.
Oh, okay. You dropping off already? I guess you gotta go. Okay.
He's busy.
He's a busy beaver. Oh, that's fine. We're gonna be wrapping it up anyways. A couple of other things. We are talking about probably evidential coming up here next time. I think that he wants to do. Real quick, I did want to get to this real quick. If you want to hang out for a second, Shesh, so we can kind of wrap this up. When it comes to Plantinga's free will defense, I wanted to kind of explain to people what that's meant by that. That there's a possible world in which Adam and Eve, and by the way, this is where I think he kind of jumps the shark as far as trying to explain his theodicy, not just for free will, but he also uses Adam and Eve for natural evils, gratuitous evils, and I just don't think that flies very well. But he says, there's a possible world in which Adam and Eve and all other creatures freely avoid sin. Okay, that's logically possible. Let's grant, at least for the sake of argument, that this possible world would have been better than the actual world. Okay, so in other words, you have a possible world is something where anything is something is actually possible, like you being you know somebody else is a logical possibility, right? No, you not being you is not logically possible. You can't be you and you're not you at the same time. That's a contradiction. But if there's some possible world where you can have wings and be flying around right now and farting rainbows and spitting silver dollars out of your mouth, that is logically possible, believe it or not. It's just not physically possible, but logically you can conceive it.
Not probable.
Well, yeah, I would say it's impossible as far as biologically possible is impossible, but that doesn't make it a logical impossibility. Possible worlds only give a crap about logical impossibilities. And since those conditions are not logical impossibilities, then in some possible world that's the case. Now, I'm a moral anti-realist. I don't think they have any ontology. But he's saying that if there was a better world than this, then God would have actualized that possible world, and we would be in that possible world. So this has to be the best of all possible worlds, according to Plantinga. Could God then have used his power to actualize that possible world? Maybe not. This defense that he's saying is that there cannot be a logical possible world that exists that has humans that have free will that cannot contain some type of gratuitous evil or any kind of evil. They are logically incompatible from each other. This is what Plantinga is trying to argue. If you have humans that have free will, that any possible world that exists must contain some degree of evil. And so he could not have created a world without evil. That's the free will defense in a nutshell.
I mean, it kind of makes sense to the degree of even if everything was good, you would still have the least amount of good, which in that world would be considered evil. So if you remove all of the evil that we know of currently, then what would become the new evil, or what we would describe as evil, would be the least good thing in that world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so it's one of those things where you have to have like a basic of understanding of what they mean by possible worlds, right? And by the way, did I lose my camera?
Nope, you're good.
Really, on the outside, it seems to be.
Oh, you didn't lose it for me. Did you
Yeah,
tab?
I did.
That might be it.
Oh.
If you just turn it off and turn it back on again.
Okay, I can do that. Let me try this real quick. Nope. Ah! I'm lost. I'm lost. Oh, well. All right. Well, they know what I look like. So we're going to be wrapping up in a few minutes.
It's just me now.
Yeah.
Hello?
Oh, you know what? We just white box her. How about we just do this? You guys, this is for you guys. This is for the...
No, I think you froze me too.
No, no, you're still good.
Oh, no, I'm still good. Okay.
Yeah. We're just going to make you white box like Reds does. There we go. There you go. Sorry, Dave. Great layout, but we're just going to put her as a white box and finish this up. So... yeah, in a nutshell, the logical problem of evil is a good argument for a very specific type of God, but it's just not a be-all, end-all, and there are defeaters for it. I do agree that Plantinga's argument is a defeater for it, but it's not a defeater for the evidential problem of evil, and that's the one I like the most, because the evidential problem of evil argues this. Evil exists, but why does this much evil exist? Why is there not one less gratuitous evil in the world? Because wouldn't that be a possible world that is better? Wouldn't we have learned the same thing if we had one less incidence of us stubbing our toes?
Well,
right?
How would we know it couldn't be worse?
Well, listen, look at if you have this possible world and you have a possible world where I stub my toe one less time, is that going to make a bit of difference for what I learned about pain? No.
Right, but isn't the possible world potentially where you stubbed your toe 2 times?
Yes, but
like,
why
is it not equal one way or the other? Is what I'm saying.
Why? Okay, if there was a possible world with one less hurricane in it, wouldn't that be a better world? With the same amount of soul building, same amount of theodicy, that's saying, hey, look, we want to learn about evil.
Well,
why not one less evil?
Soul building, then I would say not necessarily, because it depends on where that hurricane took place, wouldn't it?
Well, no. Well, yes and no. I mean, I think we could probably learn just what we need to learn without so much evil in the world. I mean,
right,
the evidential problem of evil is that there could be less evil in the world, and it wouldn't make a bit of difference. Well, why didn't God actualize something with a little less evil in it?
Well, okay, I don't disagree with you, but for the sake of argument, can that argument not be placed anywhere on that spectrum? of like
Yeah.
the most evil to the least amount of evil.
Well, that's the problem. We're on that spectrum of all possible worlds. This is the one that's actualized. And if this is the one that's actualized, what makes this one the best possible world? Nobody knows. That's the hard question to answer.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. We don't.
You know, and maybe I can add. I might be out of my. Let me see if I can add my source here before I end this real quick. Uh, devices, webcam, video.
I used to have a really unfortunate
There we go.
view on things when I was younger because I didn't grow up in the greatest household, and it was essentially, well, these things were God's plan, so they had to happen, and you know, if they were going to happen, they had to happen to somebody, and it's better they happened to me than somebody who couldn't handle it. So if it's a situation where these evil things are necessary to happen because of whatever God's reason may or may not be, or whatever things need to take place even if they're not for you or for other people. So if you're talking about a hurricane, well, you need X number of people need to experience hurricanes. Well, then, therefore, maybe this number of hurricanes has to take place for the proper amount of people and the people in the right places to get the experience that they need to have.
Yeah, but having one less hurricane, is that really going to make a bit of difference?
No, it depends on what your priorities are.
Well, it'd be
And
God's
good luck
priorities.
figuring out what God's priorities
Well,
are.
yeah, that's why we don't know, right? That's the confusing part. Yeah, because God seems very arbitrary of what makes this the best actualized world of all possible worlds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, this is CGI. Yeah, this ain't my bookshelf, people. Come on. Yeah. She's CGI too. We just render her in real time.
It's true facts. I'm actually a goblin that lives under a desk, and I just sketch this version of me over and over and over and over again. It's all pre-rendered.
So
I also just know what Steve's going to say, so I can set it all up ahead of time.
that's true. We do think an awful lot alike on certain things and completely opposite on other things. But yeah, that's true. So anyways, I'm going to end this. We are going to do probably maybe evidential next week or something similar. I know that Nick's got some stuff going on right now, so he's going to go deal with that. I am going to be having a discussion on Arn's blog eventually. I'm trying to make a video out of it, but I'm finding it to be very, very difficult. What I'm thinking about doing is making a small video, because the question he poses, I can actually address that in a very small video format. Wouldn't take me very long, because he never really gets to his question that much, really. And he just dogs on Mr. Agnostic, gets a lot of things wrong. And I don't think that I can make a video that does it justice by doing a standalone. I think what happens is I'd have to do a real-time analysis of his blog in a hangout like this with some people to explain all of the mistakes that he made. And it's a shame too. Like I said, I don't know why he thinks he's good at this. He's not. And I'm the bad guy. I'm the one that somehow, talking smack, and yet he thinks that philosophers agree with him. But when I ask him who they are, I get no names. I think the only philosopher I know that would remotely agree with him is Peter Boghossian, but he's the guy that thinks religion is a virus, and he doesn't have any published papers on any of this stuff, right? So yeah, there might be a philosopher that agrees with him, but that doesn't mean that he's an academic that has, in this topic, that has any published papers on it, right? He just believes, like religion is a virus, theists are all mentally insane. If you want to go with that kind of person that agrees with you, okay, cool. But as far as the academic literature, 100% behind me. So anyways, we might have a call on that. And anyways, last but not least, Cheshire, you want to tell people we're going to be doing Monday?
Ooh, Monday we have morning coffee. I'm excited.
And what are we doing?
We're going to cover some of the stuff that happened last week, and we're going to be doing some more like relaxed, less intensive conversations.
Do you remember? Do you remember what we're doing Monday? I don't think you remember. We had this in the meeting. Did you not take notes in the meeting that we had?
Apparently not. Wait, what am I missing?
We're going to be reading certain things.
Yeah.
Did you tell them what we're going to be reading?
Oh, yeah. You want to give it away now?
I don't know. Kind of build a buzz for it.
Oh, okay. Well,
It's up to you. Let the
yeah,
cat out of the bag. I'll let
we're
you
going to
do
be
it.
going through the deleted comments on Non Sequitur for the past, however long.
So Astronomy Live has had a AI bot that has been monitoring the comments on the last couple weeks' videos, especially on Non Sequitur channel. I'm not even calling it the Non Sequitur Show because it's not the Non Sequitur Show any longer. I'm part of the Non Sequitur Show, and I'm not on there any longer, so I can't even call it the Non Sequitur Show. It is the Non Sequitur Channel. That is true. So I'm going to call it the Non Sequitur Channel. But hundreds of comments have disappeared. This chatbot has captured every one of them, and they are awesome.
Yep. Chat's amazing. Chat's always amazing.
So we're going to be reading comments, drinking coffee Monday morning, Chester and I, and maybe a few other people. I think that's going to be our new shtick is that her and I are going to be doing Monday morning kind of things. And then Ask a Philosopher on Friday nights. I think we've kind of decided that. I'm going to have Rum and Coke nights on Saturday. I'm going to be doing my agnostic atheist stuff on Sundays. Yes, it's still going to be a thing. Sorry, people. Don't watch those episodes. But I think so. Basically, Monday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we definitely got covered. I'm going to have one night a week that I want to play some games maybe because people have been saying, hey, let's do some gaming stuff. So I really enjoyed playing Counter-Strike the other night. I know you've tried downloading it. I know Sweet's tried downloading it. Maybe get some other people that can
I've
download
got
it.
it downloaded now. My video card messed up, but it seems to be fine for now. So we need to do Portal.
Portal 2. Yeah.
Specifically.
All
You
right.
have to pick if you want to be Atlas or Peabody.
I
Do you
don't
want to
remember.
be this tall one or do you want to be this short, round guy?
I don't care. Pick one. Whatever makes you happy. It's for your happiness. Yeah, I know. Like GeoStreber has been bugging me for like a year to play Portal 2. He messages me like once every 3 weeks. Have you played Portal 2 yet? In his thick German accent that I can't do. I like Portal. Portal was good. But anyways, how long have we been doing this? Because I want to wrap this up.
An hour and a little bit.
I usually go 90,
Hour.
90 minutes is what I'm aiming for most things because I find that to be the most optimal amount of viewing and entertainment value. And, well, it's hard on my ass to sit here for 2 hours. But I got to read some super chats to get them out of the way. So, Michael, $2. I support you, Steve. Thank you, Michael. Gleam, £2. Could God equal personification of electric? I don't know if that's really deep or I'm not drunk enough. Because I just broke into this. I'm having like a quarter finger, so I'm not even buzzed. But I'm telling you, this is like the best sipping scotch I've ever had. Perfect Plier, $1. Thank you. Serbia, $2. Is choice to believe determinism free will? Thumbs down. There's a difference between free will and choice. I think we have the ability to choose. I think we have will. But I don't think we have what's called libertarian free will. And the difference is something along these lines. Let's say that Cheshire has a decision to be made between decision A and decision B. She makes the decision to do A, okay? Now, a year from now, she comes backwards in time to that same point in time where she made that decision. The person with libertarian free will, the indeterminate position, would be that she could very much make the opposite decision. She could do B just as easy, 50-50, right? There's no way to tell what she's going to do. The determinate position or the compatibilist position, which is a type of determinist position, would say, no, she's going to make the decision A every time, given all things being equal, called cerebus paribus. It would be all things considered equal. I probably mispronounced that. But all things being equal, she as a compatibilist would say she has the choice, but without any undue influence, without the external influence, she's going to choose A every single time she goes back in time. I think that's more the case. I don't think that we have libertarian free will, though, where if the exact same conditions are met, she has she's going to choose something different. That makes no sense to me. I think you're going to choose the same thing every time if the exact same conditions are that way. I think it's just a biological thing, right? So I don't think we have a choice to,
Well,
for certain things.
there would be no other real options, would there?
Yeah, because these aren't really choices. Like, for example, we don't choose our beliefs. I'm a dosastic involuntarist, which means that I believe that our beliefs choose us in some ways, right? Our brains recognize that we accepted something. We've said to ourselves subconsciously, this has convinced us, right? And then we say, I believe it, right?
Well, yeah, there's something to be said for that most decisions that you make, you're the last one to actually find out that you've made the decision.
Yes. Yeah, because I mean, can you say that if I said, hey, Chesh, I'm going to give you $1 million if you can believe yourself that you can fly. Yeah, you could be later over time. You can self-deceive yourself. Don't get me wrong, but you can't on a fly just say, look I now believe that I can fly. No matter how hard you try, you can't do that.
Particularly if you're going for beliefs, absolutely.
Right.
Beliefs are you would almost argue that they're not necessarily like determined, but they're pre-decided by your physiological makeup as well as your history.
Yes, I think it's a lot of neurology that goes in there, and I'm going to get a neurologist to come in and talk about one of these days and the human mind, the mind-body connection, because it's fascinating. Reductionism and non-reductionism and ephemerology. What is it? What's that? My goodness. Not phenomenology, but the other one. I forget it. I'm slipping today. But by the way, Russian Vid says he forgives you.
Oh, all right. Well, sure. Great. Thanks.
By the way, Russian Vids thinks that is not a woman. Well, that right here, right, that. I don't know. First of all, she looks like a girl to me, and even if she wasn't, I wouldn't care. I would still be attracted to her, but not in that particular way because we're like brother and sister now, and it'd be creepy. But
I mean, if Russian Viz really wants to have that discussion, I am totally down to have that discussion. But
I think
we
he
have
wants you to
set-
prove it off air. I think he wants you to like actually
Well,
physically
yeah,
prove
of
it to him,
course
and
he
then
does,
what he's
but
gonna
that's a different.
and then what
that's
he's gonna do? Go, oh, I was wrong. No.
Well, I'm more interested in getting a slideshow together of various people and letting him decide whether or not they're male or female and see what his percentage is, because his percentage on the show tonight wasn't very good.
I think he's going to say that your vagina is CGI. I think that's going to be his excuse. Yeah.
Tell you what, Russian Vids, send me your mailing address, like your P.O. box. I'll send you some period tampons, and you can let me know if you think I'm a female or not.
Yeah, I don't think he understands any of those concepts, by the way. I don't think he had those.
That's women's anatomy.
Yeah, I don't think he had that course in like 5th grade where they separate the boys and the girls. Yeah, I don't think he had that. All right, keep going here on the. We got Dapper Dino, $5. Got you your whole Steam wish list plus a few because you needed more games. Well, holy shit. First of all, I didn't create that wish list for other people. I actually created that wish list. I was going to get those games myself. They look kind of cool to me. They're like $1.50, $2 games. And so I just created a wish list for myself that I was like, you know what? I might get these at some point. But thank you if you got that for me. I had not published that wish list anywhere. I didn't know that it was even something that anybody else could look at. So Dapper, I appreciate that. But that I was not asking for those games. But you know what? Now that you did that, I'm going to have to play them now. So thank you.
Hell yeah.
I didn't realize, I had no idea that people could see my wish list because there's a couple different games that I got really inexpensive because I'm like, they're on sale. Most of the times they have sales, but this was a really good stuff, like $3 games, $2 games. Like, I'll get a few hours use out of that. So thank you, Dapper. So now we definitely have to do game night once a week. So.
Oh, absolutely. I am 100% down for game nights because, like, I'm all about that. I did like 100% playthrough of Banjo-Kazooie. I was playing Spyro recently, so I'm down for whatever.
Dapper says any Steam friend can
I'm
see
the odd
list.
man out.
I had no idea. Like I said, I literally created that wish list because I was like, these games seem pretty cool to me, and I'll probably end up buying them. But I was picking them out. Then I got involved in something else. And I was going to get them today. But thank you very much.
You should make your Steam information available, like on your Twitter or like publicly.
Well, I guess I will now. I guess I'm going to include that with the rest of my my stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I like chess. I play chess. YouTube search in general. I'm not really good at it, but I could beat the computer on the level 1 on chess about half the time, or even maybe more. So I think that if you could beat the chess even the computer at least once, you at least know how to play chess. So I can beat half the time. But what did Red say? I missed it. Red said something. He says, Russian Vids, I am sorry you felt we were condescending. We will try to do better. Both of those were lies. Go fuck yourself. Reds, I gotta tell, Reds has the patience of a goddamn saint. I don't know how he does it. I would have kicked him so long ago. Because I just don't think he's genuine.
Yeah.
There's nobody's that goddamn. He's just not in touch with reality and moves the goalpost so much. And anything you say to him, he's going to try to find an excuse for. That is not a person that is honest. That is not a person that is intelligent. That is not a person who's looking for truth. That is a person who's trying to come up with any possible excuse not to accept reality, and for whatever reason.
I will 100% apologize for everything that I have ever said to Russian Vids. Not that I think I have anything to apologize for, but if he feels that I need to apologize, I will 100% do that if he can prove to me that the moon is not made of cheese.
I don't think he thinks the moons exist. He said Jupiter was a star.
Yeah. I just want him to prove to me that the moon isn't cheese. That shouldn't be difficult.
Well, I don't think you can prove anything scientifically, so I think that would be a hard thing, impossible thing to do in as far as science. But
so from now on, I think that the moon is cheese because Russian Vids can't prove otherwise.
Yeah, well, that's about the way he thinks, right? I mean,
we can debate on what
he's
kind
one
of
big
cheese
argument from incredulity, bar none. I mean, he's just everything to him is just he doesn't understand it, therefore it cannot be.
My roommates aren't really part of a lot of what I do online, and so they found out I was going to be on a show tonight with with Russian vids, and they were like, who the fuck is Russian vids? And I was like, if you believe in one conspiracy theory, you believe in all of the conspiracy theories.
Well, I'm still reeling from the fact he thinks Jupiter's a star because obviously he doesn't have a basic understanding of what a planet is versus a star. Now, one could argue that maybe Jupiter was a failed star, maybe, but that doesn't make it a star. It is a gaseous planet.
You would need to have a little bit more basis.
There's
than
no
what
fusion going on Jupiter. Cannot be a star. I'm sorry. He's just fundamentally, astronomically, no pun intended, slightly pun, wrong. So, but anyways, we're going to wrap this
You
up.
have to be bright to catch that one.
Oh, bright like a star. Yeah.
Ah!
We're dim like a white dwarf.
Russian vids killed JFK. Changed my mind. I love chat. Chat's my favorite.
Yeah, like I said, Reds has the patience of a saint because him and Sean especially, how they were sitting there listening to that tripe was just, I'm just like, this guy cannot be freaking serious. I'm sorry, Russian vids. I don't take you seriously. You are the most uneducated people I've ever ran across my entire experience on the internet, or two, you are just a Poe. And either way, even if you're not a Poe, you're an idiot. And if you're doing this on purpose, then you are an idiot anyways because you're wasting a lot of people's time by acting stupid. So either way, no matter what it is,
you're wasting your own time.
Right.
Like, even if you just want to take this from an entirely, like, selfish, like, what's good for you, what you're doing isn't good for you. Stop.
Yeah, why would you want... Look, we put ourselves out there. I get that, right? Thousands of people will watch us. I understand that, and when you say something, you're held accountable for it. Why would you go out of your way to say such goddamn stupid stuff? I don't get that. He's literally going out of his way to do it, though.
Well, Sean literally explained how this rocket was working, and then a minute or two later, they asked Russian vids how this rocket was how this functioned, and he answered, kind of. And my immediate question was, you were just explained this.
He doesn't listen.
Why didn't you just basically reword what Sean said to make yourself sound and seem...
He could have parroted it. He could have done it word for word, right? But if he doesn't understand the basic things of kinematics, then why would he think he's capable of evaluating anything? I know Sean understands kinematics. I know Reds understand kinematics. Let me show something real quick, if I may. Let me hang on one quick.
Please.
Okay, sorry. Donkey porn. No, I don't want that. One sec. Sometimes this doesn't... I get so many messages on this thing. Come on. Oh, I had... Okay.
Reds wants in.
Oh, Reds wants in? I can add him to the call in a second here. 1 second. Okay. Although I was going to end it soon, but sure. Give me 1 second. I just want to show you guys this first. Here we go. So you can get these really cool apps that have like pocket physics and things like that. And so like this, there's pocket physics for you there, Russian vids. Let me see there. Right. So all you got to do is if you want to like learn something, turns off. But let's say I want to use like kinematics. So I want to understand like velocity and acceleration, right? This gives you all the mathematical formulas for it. Can you see that? Now, how cool is that, right? This is all he's got to do to go learn the basics, right? If you want to understand what displacement is, the first and second acceleration. Ooh, I'm disappearing. Where the hell am I going? This is weird. Can you guys see this? I'm vanishing. If you want to understand, what a derivative is, I have calculus on this as well. This is what Russian Vids needs to do. He needs to go learn the basics because all he does is spew shit against the wall and sees what sticks, and none of it does because it's all tripe. Now I got to add... can you read that super chat while I add him real quick?
Yes. I was actually grabbing him as well. Just wanted to say that Cheshire Vic's vagina, I'm assuming that's vagina, probably isn't CGI, even if Russian Vids thinks otherwise, but my colloquial definitely is. Nice. Nice!
So, wait, there's a difference between your colloquial VJ and your philosophical VJ?
Not mine, theirs.
VJJ? Oh.
Yeah, mine probably isn't, but theirs
By the way, I think Red's, Russian Vids saw me disappearing, so maybe I don't really exist. You didn't, I don't think you saw it, but I added you. Did you want to come in, Reds? I don't. He's got. Yeah, which one is he on? He's got a different. Reg, you've got so many different Skype things, dude.
Yeah, no, I've got him added. I can get him into the call.
Yo.
There he is.
Oh, there you go.
Awesome. What you got for us, Reds? I'm gonna get your NDI source here in a second.
Apparently, Russian Viz is still butthurt.
Oh, he's
and
so
I find that
butthurt.
hilarious.
What did you say at the end of your stream? Because I wasn't able to catch the end of that. But people are yelling at me that I didn't hear the end of it.
Good question. I don't even remember. I just tell people, thanks for watching and peace the fuck out and shit like that.
Say what you gotta say and get the fuck out.
Pretty much.
I can't believe that you sat there and explained to him the same things over and over and over and over again. It's like, I know it's entertaining, don't get me wrong.
Reds, apparently you're echoing.
I
have
fixed it.
headphones on.
No, I
so
fixed
what
it.
the fuck?
You're good.
It was
Never
my
mind.
end. NDI, you got to turn off the audio for the NDI or you get an echo, and it doesn't do it automatically for some strange reason. I'm just going to put his image on it anyways, because we don't want him on camera. That could get us demonetized.
That could, yeah, not a lot more than you get.
We don't want to blow the eyes out of the back of people's heads. Come on now.
Now we're talking.
There we go. Now I'm going to put Reds right over Nick here. I like doing this stuff on the fly,
Reds,
but
Cheshire, and Russian Vids a team now.
No.
Team, what would the goal be of that team?
so what did Russian Vids say that he wanted now? Because I kept moving the goalposts like every freaking time.
Specifically, he wants a daytime launch, as if, and the way he was saying it was as if Reds had any control over when the launch took place.
Well, he works for SpaceX. He should have some control.
Yeah,
Supposedly.
basically, the one shot that I've been trying to get for 2 fucking years, I apparently need to get that shot again, but while live streaming it over crappy 4G LTE.
Yeah, and how many cameras did you have, and how much preparation did it take to get that actual shot contiguous like that?
Oh god, it took. I had 4 cameras, and that would be including Astronomy Live's telescope with auto tracking capabilities, and so Astronomy Live was able to capture uncut footage from launch to landing. I was able to capture uncut footage from launch to landing. I was able to have a static camera that was zoomed in onto the landing zone, and I had a static cam pointed at the launch pad showing it actually taking the fuck off. So apparently none of that is good enough for him. Now he wants it live streamed, which I did, but it was at night, and that's a problem because reasons. And so now he wants me to do that shot again, but in the daytime.
Well, I mean, those cows were CGI. Come on, admit it. Just be
of course, it's all about the fucking cows.
Yeah.
You need to make it believable. Let's go ahead and add some fucking.
I want to know honestly. Be honest. Give your best guess. Is Russian Viz a Poe or he is literally the stupid?
Post law. I mean, it's hard to answer.
That's the problem. You can't answer. There's no way you could give me a justification by thinking it's one or the other. I am agnostic on that because I don't know. Because either way, if he is a Poe, he's also an idiot. So.
I mean, that's a tough one. I have gone back and forth on whether or not Jeranism is a Poe or if he's just doing this for the fucking money. I've struggled with that. And you know what?
At this point, be both. That could be both.
I mean, true, exactly. Which is why I'm just like, you know what? Whether they honestly believe this garbage or they're just pushing it for the lugs, I'll go ahead and debunk it as if they were serious.
Yeah, no, and I think you should. I mean, you got to treat them at least of some seriousness, only because they can somewhat influence other people. And so if you can push their shit in and explain to people why they don't want to be a dumbass, yeah, go for it. A couple other things here. Dapper Dino, just wanted to say that Cheshire's... Oh, you read this one. Yeah, you already read that one, right? Probably isn't CGI.
125? Yeah, I read that one.
Okay. And McCarthy's List, 125 PHP. I know it's Steve is a magician with disappearing powers. Yeah. I'm telling you, with this computer, you can do all kinds of weird stuff. It's great. Um,
I mean, the thing is that there's no way, especially Jeranism. There's no. He
so good.
knows. He knows. He
Oh,
proved it
he's fraud.
himself
No,
on a
he is
live
not a
stream.
pro. Well, he's not. Excuse me, he is a pro, but he's a fraud pro. Does that make sense? He knows full
Yeah,
well that
he's
a
not.
con
Yeah,
man.
he's not quite a pro.
Yeah.
He is a fraud.
Yeah.
And he knows he is. He knows he's factually incorrect because he proved it wrong himself.
Right.
It's the exact same reason why why Russian vids won't do a single goddamn thing. It's the exact same reason why Flat Earth Aussie Jesus also won't do a single goddamn thing. You've got Reds out here doing all the work fucking for them, and they still refuse to accept it.
Yeah, well, as long as Reds continues to do that, then nobody's ever going to take people like Russian Vids seriously. He's just a lolscow.
Yeah.
That's all he's
Yeah,
for.
And because I actually go out and do the work, he was wondering, why is it that people support you so much? Why is it that people, give you super chats and shit like that? Because when I say I'm going to do something, I actually go out and fucking do it. Okay?
Well, that, and he's the one saying, oh, hey, well, go get all these cameras. Well, then you fucking pay for it.
Yeah. And so I went out and I was able to get get a fan base that wanted me to see me push their shit right back up their ass. And so they crowdfunded not one but two Nikon P900s and a P1000 that I'm able to live stream from, a laptop, 2 capture cards. I mean, this was all shit that was gotten for me by the community. And so, one, I'm very thankful, and two, I put that shit to good use. Because Russian Vids, on my last stream, was demanding that I do a live stream. And it wasn't until after I showed him that I actually did a live stream that he decided to move the goalpost and said, well, now it has to be in the daytime.
Yeah, well, here's the thing with Russian Vids. Russian Vids will spew a lot of stuff, but he has a lot of things that don't work for him, like mathematics, physics, science. None of that.
Well, that was like the I don't understand. There's one thing with Russian vids that I don't understand, and there's a question from chat for you, Red. It's why did you disconnect Russian vids after Russian vids told you you needed him?
Okay.
But given that he I don't understand how you get past Russian vids with, hey, if I go up, can I see further? Why?
Because the Earth's not flat.
It's
Wow.
It's almost like geometry.
Wow, I had to think about that. That was rough, man. Don't ask me stuff like that. That's hard questions.
Yeah. Also, to answer the question, Russian Vid said, hey, you contacted me, which is true. I did contact him because I wanted to see what he thought of the most recent Falcon Heavy launch and the fact that I not only live streamed it, but
You mean the one that he was supposed to be in the chat for and wasn't because he pushed out?
Exactly. And so I wanted his opinion on the whole Falcon Heavy, the 2 videos I uploaded, the fixed live stream, the final edited version of the launch. And then, to add to both of those would be the actual live stream from that night. So I got in contact with him so that he could come on. He thought that I had gotten in contact with him because I, quote, needed him. So after he made such a claim, as we all know, I am all about debunking the claims of flat earthers, so I booted him from the hangout. Oh, you think I need you? You think I need you? Oh, no, fuck you, good sir.
Yeah,
so I blew him out the goddamn airlock.
Chester and I have color quarter tonight. I actually bought this shirt tonight. I took my daughter shopping, and I decided to get a few things for myself. I don't ever buy myself stuff, and I bought this and a couple other shirts. This is comfortable as hell. I love this fabric. I don't know what the hell it is, but it's like just like a little t-shirt, but we color coordinated it. It was nice. But yeah, no, look, all Russian Vids has is conspiracy theory. He has no physics, no math, no science. He doesn't know shit all about it, and he just wants to expect other people to believe him. Doesn't he realize that nobody who knows these topics is going to buy into his bullshit? Nobody.
He tried to go after me on rockets. I'm like, oh, you done did fucked up there, boy.
Well, I mean, the reason Reds kicked, ultimately, the reason why Reds kicked Russian Vids is because Russian Vids called Reds out, and Reds called his fucking bluff. Do not call out Reds on bluffs. He will call you every single time.
Oh, you need me. Okay, bye, Click.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, first of all, Russian vids, I don't need you because I don't have a flat Earth debunking channel, so you can fuck off on my channel, and I wouldn't give a shit because I guarantee it, you're not going to draw any views to my channel, nor would I give a shit one way or another if you hang out. However, I'm not an asshole. If you want to be in the live chat and spew your shit, by all freaking means. The live chat will eat you alive just like anybody else that has a rudimentary understanding of any of these topics. I'm not going to stop you from doing that, but I the hell don't need you.
Yep. Also, just to be clear on this, so I went ahead and there was a live stream which got split into two different videos because we had shitty connection. There's the fixed live stream, which is the live stream that we recorded on the laptop, and then there's the final version of the video, which was edited with the music and shit like that. So I had all of this ready for Russian Vids, and I wanted his honest opinion on it. And his honest opinion was, it's not good enough because reasons. I want it in the daytime. Why didn't you tell me that you were actually doing a live stream, even though he follows me on Twitter?
Yeah, I
posted
listened to
on
that.
Twitter
That was weird.
3 fucking times.
That was my
that
favorite. He was immediately like, "Why didn't you post on Twitter?" And then said he didn't check his Twitter.
Yeah, he wouldn't have mattered anyways because he doesn't check his Twitter. But still,
I posted it on Twitter.
Let me ask you, who the fuck of importance is this Russian vids even to take up space in my or your comment for a tweet? Why would you even put his name in there? He's not worth the space to put his name in there when you get tweeted at other people. I'm telling you, Russian vids, Reds does not cater to you. You're not somebody he gives a fuck about when he does this stuff. You're just tangential, collateral bullshit that he can use to show people that you guys are all full of shit. That's it.
Twitter has a limited number of characters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's not worth putting his
Vids-
name in, and I'm sorry, he's just not.
Russian Vids basically said that, I should have contacted him. But here's the thing. Russian Vids follows me on Twitter, and I posted 3 fucking times. We're going to go live at T-15. We're about to go live. This is a picture of us setting our shit up to go live. There were 3 updates. And then besides those 3 updates, I was then updating people in real time in the live chat. So Russian Vids had every opportunity to catch this thing when it was actually happening. He didn't, and that somehow is my fault.
Yep, blame you.
I wouldn't be surprised if he did. I would not be surprised if he was like lurking.
Oh, I'm sure he saw it. I think he's a liar. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. 2BN333 $5. Is Reds like the Medusian ambassador from Star Trek? Too much for the human mind to take. Maybe.
Worse.
Yeah.
Worse.
Well, as looks wise, yeah. You guys don't even know. It's pretty bad, actually. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have sex with him, but then again, there's multiple reasons for that.
I mean, listen, I'm just thankful that Chess is actually blind.
Yeah, I figured those glasses probably don't do much to correct her vision because she didn't puke like projectile vomit the first time she ever saw you. So
I know.
I don't know if you've seen these glasses, but if anybody, I will keep these glasses.
How thick are
I'll
those
keep
things?
these glasses for a really long time. They're not very thick, but the thing is like if you can get a look, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but if you look at like how, like there's like divots and
Yeah.
like they're
Looks like
ruined.
Did you
They're
chew on it?
ruined. No, so I have this string now,
Yeah.
but I didn't always have this string, and I'll show you real quick.
I'm not going to get demonetized for this, am I?
We'll find out.
Oh, and they fell off. Okay.
Oh.
Oh,
That
okay.
explains
Well,
why.
I was expecting something else, but whatever. Do you have bite marks on the ends of your glasses, like those?
No,
No?
not like I don't bite that hard.
Hey,
but
Reds,
most
take
of
note of
the-
that.
Most of the divot marks are actually the non-scratch shit.
Which is
So
bullshit.
I feel
It's
like
scratch.
if I wear them enough, all this non-scratch shit will come off and they'll be good as new again.
Yeah. No, I mean I'm going to go in for my eye appointment, but I'm going to get contacts.
I need to go to the dentist.
Yeah,
I need to
probably
get
should like to, too.
LASIK.
Yeah, I definitely need to go get a new pair of glasses, but I figure if I'm going to get glasses, I'm going to get contacts instead because I miss my contacts.
Are you gonna get colors?
No, I have beautiful eyes. What the hell I want to color that? Do you see this? These are gorgeous. This is like one of the best things I got from my parents. Women like these eyes. What
Do
the color,
you have the
hazel?
same color of eyes as I
green?
do?
No, yours is... Well, damn, maybe we do. Yeah. Holy crap, you got hazel.
Hey, just so that we're clear. Just so that
That's
we're
not creepy, sorry.
Just so that we're clear, both of y'all have the same color eyes I do.
Oh, you know what? Maybe we're related somehow. This is like an ancestral thing.
Oh, there we go. Hot.
Yeah. Now you do have
Listen.
hazel eyes.
Listen.
I've
Chess,
never
if we
I've never peered that deeply into Red's eyes. There's reasons for that.
listen, Chess, if we are related in that way, you and I are moving to Alabama.
Yeah, it's legal down there. Who cares, right?
Yeah, who cares?
She's
they're
if
I,
she,
I don't know. Alabama has some problems that I don't know
I'm
if I'm
pretty
okay
sure
with.
she's third cousin or greater distance from you, Red. So it's okay.
Listen. In Alabama, it's all okay. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm fucking wrong.
Blunt Soutter. I don't know. Says Steve, you're beautiful eyes. Thank you. That is one thing that I do think that I have is nice eyes. I'm very self-deprivating on other things, but when it comes to my eyes, I like my eyes because a lot of girls have told me they have nice eyes.
Yes, and also I'm waiting for the live stream to actually finish doing its processing, and then I'm gonna re-upload it on the Redshift. So that's where it is. So yeah.
Don't you lose the
So it's a
views?
Redshift?
Well, his Redshift channel is his other channel where he has like he keeps his main channel for like the launches, and he has a Redshift for all the other stuff.
Never actually been on.
Which kind of makes sense, but don't you lose all the views on your main channel when you do that?
I do, but I really don't give a shit.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
I never started this channel for views or subs.
No, I get it.
But yeah, so I like to keep my main channel relatively clean.
Yeah, no, I definitely concur with that. That's a good idea.
I haven't been doing a very good job of that.
Neither have I,
but
and I won't.
I've been trying.
No, but I have the Great Debate community is for the same reason, right? I'll do a lot of stuff in the Great Debate community that I probably wouldn't put on this channel, but people are sending me messages. Sorry. Oh, hey, yeah, okay. So it looks like Godless Engineer all of a sudden got a big bump of 224 subs out of nowhere. Interesting. By the way, there are going to be some videos coming out for GE soon. Not mine, but other people. So be prepared, GE. I'm still coming after your ass.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
GE needs to go down. Casey needs to go down, and Katie Polson, you're on my shit list as well. So I have no compunction to going after them for the shit that they said that they can't back the fuck up. And you know me, I'm like Reds. I learned this from Reds. When people can't back up their shit, you call them out. You don't just coddle them. You don't just say, "Oh, look, you're part of the community. You're a atheist." No, I don't give a crap. You say shit, you need to back the fuck up, man. When people saying that I didn't graduate nuke school, that I'm defrauding the VA, tax fraud, all that crap. Come on, where's your goddamn evidence, Katie? Fuck you and GE.
There's something to be said for, and I said this like in the first week, and I was
Oh, you
like,
got a boost from the debate today. You're right.
You think this is if you think this is the worst you're gonna get, you don't respect the internet.
Yeah, the shit's just starting right now. There has been some very large YouTubers that are going to be
People
weighing in
haven't
on this,
even
I think.
begun making the responses yet.
And I just
Like,
got all the
it's
emails for the all the gifts I got. Oh, Hitman Blood Money, yes. And Witcher Enhanced Edition. I still didn't finish Witcher 3, but I wanted to play the first one, so that thank you. I'm telling you, there's like these games are cheap. They're like $2 on Steam, so somebody can get them. Endless Space Collection, thank you. And Witcher 2. See, now you won't ever see me again because I'll be playing Witcher now for the rest of my life.
Oh no, you're gonna have to do it on stream.
Yeah, well, some of them I will. Yeah, most certainly. But thank you for that very much.
Game night.
That was very, very nice of you. Dapper dinosaur. Okay.
Steve McRae, as an 80% disabled vet, you can't fraud the VA unless you can somehow fool a doctor who spends all of their time keeping out frauds.
I'm at 0% disability. Zero. Do they not understand that I don't get any money from the military? Zero means zero disability. I didn't get hurt or anything. But the VA, it doesn't matter on the VA. And so these things that the people are throwing out there, yeah, I want vengeance. I want GE to hurt. I want his channel to be fucked. Because if he's going to be in the skeptic community and he's going to be saying shit and not backing it up, that's not skepticism. I mean, technically it's not, but his version of skepticism because he doesn't understand philosophy with a shit. And I don't think he understands engineering with a shit.
I mean, at least you're honest about it.
I'm honest about
Like,
everything. That's the problem. That's why I
you're
get
on it,
shit.
You're angry, and people know that you're angry, and
Yeah, I'm
you've
angry.
made what you want clear. Which is better than being like, oh, you know what, you guys should be nice to them.
No.
Meanwhile, behind the scenes, you're like,
No, I had to do that before. I don't have to now. Yeah, I'm more angry now than I was then because I'm spending more time with my daughter now. She's out of school. She's going to high school. She wants to come live with me for a little while and maybe take her for like 6 months because her mom may be moving. I now realizing that she got screwed out of things more than I did in some ways, and it pisses me off. I really have gotten angry out of it. Yes, I will admit that because I'm enjoying spending time with my daughter because I wasn't able to do a lot of things with her before, various reasons. But now summer has come around and she has not doing her softball, so she wants to spend time with her dad, and I love that. But now that money that I got from non-sec could have gotten to me to actually get an apartment, maybe, right, where I can have her more often. And so this is actually becoming something that's influenced my life and my daughter's life. So when people like Katie, GE, and KC saying, "Oh well, no big deal that Steve's not getting a goddamn dime from working for a year and a half," that's affecting my life, and that I will take personally. Again, two things you don't fuck with: vets and my daughter. I will wreck you. I will end you.
I have a bit of a question, and it in regards to whether or not fuck, I lost it. It's gone. Never mind.
Well, I vented. I feel better now. Thank you, by the way. Let me get that out. I really use sometimes my channel to vent, and it shouldn't be on Ask a Philosopher. But
I remember
whatever.
what it was. Are we gonna do a no fap till Kyle pays Steve?
No.
Got it.
No.
I would have lost that about 5 minutes ago, about an hour ago when you first came on. I would have been, yeah.
I'm sorry. Without the ability to bust every now and then, I'll get way too
All right,
cranky.
let's ask the live chat an honest question. How many of you have fapped to chess before?
I did about like 3 times today.
I bet most of them would say at least once.
At least once. I've done it 3 times.
3 times in one day.
And here's the thing: it's soon to be 4. In fact, chess. I'll be right back.
Yeah, it shouldn't take very long. Let me turn my camera off. Hang on one sec. I'll turn my camera off for just 1 second. Oh, actually, it's not turning off. Anyways, I'll do it on camera, whatever. But no, I don't think anybody can survive that. Look, it's been 17 days now. And actually, somebody had said somebody said that it should have been retroactive to a year and a half ago because I haven't had a dime for a year and a half. So it's actually been almost, going on 2 years since he paid me. So.
Correct. The way that I did that is
I like the way you did it. That's good.
For those of you who were in the live chat, that link I sent is the tick counter for Kyle has been refusing to show Steve the books or even pay him for however long it says. Yep. Now, what I did was I went back to my phone, I went into my text messages, and that last text message I sent Kyle before this shit show really turned into a shit show, I went from, okay, this is when it actually started. Yeah. Because this was the date that recorded conversation, the one that got leaked out or posted, whichever, actually occurred. So I said, okay, well, if that conversation that was recorded happened on this date, that'll be the date of the start. So that was 17 days ago, 1 hour. All right, 17 days, 1 hour, 54 minutes, and 59 seconds ago.
Yeah, I don't want it to define this channel, but I have to bring it up every so often because I want pressure on them. I want Godless Engineer, Casey, and Katie to feel the pressure and the wrath of doing what they did on the internet. And I'm sorry, certain things are not forgivable on the internet, at least not even remotely so until there's amends to be made. There have been no amends to be made. They have fucked over me, my family, my fans, their fans, the Patreons, and everybody else who watched these channels. I think every one of them should take personal umbrage, and I think every one of them should make it very known to people. I haven't really done call-outs. People were saying, well, Steve was sending people over to downvote. I've never asked anybody to downvote a video, ever. No. I don't think that's a good idea either. I don't want people to,
I think
because it gives them a view.
Steve has actually done is to say, call them out, or say what you think you should say.
Yes. Yeah, when I mean call them out, I mean like call them out and, hey, why are you allowing somebody to basically what is tantamount to stealing from Steve. What is your justification that he shouldn't get a dime from a year and a half worth of work for that channel that he started and he brought in the guest?
Also,
What is your justification for that?
Just to
And your
just
mic
to
would just shit, by
clarify,
the way, Chess. Is that bacon?
hang on. Everyone, shut the fuck up for a second.
Dude, she's got bacon.
Just to confirm or to clarify something in the live chat. Yeah. So what I did was on the day that recorded phone call was actually recorded, I was actually texting Kyle saying, "Kyle, don't fucking do this. You will regret it." So that was a text message thread which ended with him telling me to just trust him on this. You just have to trust me.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing.
No, he
so
doesn't.
I was like, okay. So I looked at the date of that text message. I'm like, okay, that will be the date that will signify the start of this clock. Because it was no more than 5 minutes later that Steve said, "Show me the fucking books."
Yep, KC is the new boss. And by the way, YouTube search in general, I saw the tweets and I saw the tweets that had the type messages and all that, and I watched for a second, and I saw what you did. That's why you get a wrench, by the way. You stood up for what is right. You have honor. You have ethics. The people that are going on that channel now, I can't imagine any of them having ethics, and if they do, it's questionable ethics. Because there's some people that I care about that probably will be on that channel, but I have to question their reasoning behind it, the justification. Because this is taking money out of my daughter's future, my future, that spending time with my daughter. Because I enjoyed going out with her today and shopping, and we went to Red Robin and had an amazing time. I want to do more of that, and the money that I earned from Non Sequitur could go into that. So, because I wanted for her. I'm not a materialistic person, and so I'm comfortable. I got my scotch. But I want some things for her, and she's telling me that she would come stay with me if I can get my own apartment. So I'm getting my own ID, and eventually, if I can, make that happen, I would love that. But I think that money that I could be using from Non Sequitur could go to that. But anyways, real quick, Asian Castration says, "I volunteered to get Steve Cyberpunk 2077." I don't know what that is. But
Oh, wait, you don't know what that is?
should I? I feel bad.
Yes, you need to look up that trailer. It
All right,
was
I'll check it
an
out.
E3 trailer that just came out. Look it up after the
There's only so many games I can play here, people. So Dapper
The
says,
reveal is amazing.
Dapper Dino says, even I graduated nuke school. If I can do it, Steve can do it. Oh, I'm sorry. Really? Dapper, you're a nuke? Where'd you go? I went to Florida, Orlando. Where did he go to nuke school? And he went through the whole pipeline, dark side and everything? Because I only know like 4 nukes, I think. Maybe 3. I know, let's see, what's his name? Avenger 101? No, what's his name? Joe, what's his name? Joe Avenger? I don't know. Oh, he's a nuke EM from Goose Creek. Oh, nice. Yeah, I was MM first class surface warrior, surface warfare. But yeah, I went to Dark Side down in Orlando, Florida. Then I went to Prototype at S1C, which is Naval Nuclear Training Unit. So if
School in NC.
all right, so we're going to end this real quick because I got 3 minutes. I want to do this for the 2-hour mark, and I'm going to end it real quick. But let's ask Dapper one question. Does he remember the 6-factor formula? And how hard was it? How hard was nuke school? People think that people that don't understand that school was designed by like MIT level. It is way harder than college. Almost nearly impossible for people to pass. This is why 2/3 fail out. So see if he remembers the 6-factor formula and if he thinks that it was extremely hard. Cajun, what is Steve's stream name? It is Nuke GDC.
You should type it in.
I am. So we'll wait for Dapper to answer that question. Reg, you got anything else you got going on? Anything you want to throw out there before I end this?
Yep. So it's going to be not next week, but the week after that. On the 11th going into the 12th, there will be an Atlas V 551 launch in Cape Canaveral. I will try to live stream that and hope for the best. It is a Atlas rocket with 5 solid rocket boosters on the son of a bitch. So this is going to be one hell of a fucking launch. It's one of the Mac Daddy rockets. So
nice.
It's not a SpaceX rocket, but holy shit, is it fast. So go ahead and just tune in for that, and I will be sure to keep people informed on Twitter. So Russiavids, if you're listening, that's a hint, as in pay the fuck attention to Twitter between the 11th and the 12th of next month. Atlas5551. I will record it, and I will also try to live stream it.
All right. And with that, we'll bid you guys good night. Like I said, I got some stuff going on tomorrow. I'll be on the Geek Room
I don't
tomorrow.
have anything going on. I don't want to talk about nothing.
Well, we might be able to sneak you on the Geek Room. I'll ask Frank. I'm going to be on Animancer's Underhaven tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And then at 10 a.m. we're going to do the Geek Room. Let's Rift.
Games I like.
Yeah, so after that, maybe we might be able to play some games. I look at the games that I got and maybe find one we can kind of stream after that. But I do have a guy coming over tomorrow that I've known for like 2 decades, and he's going to help me soundproof this room a little bit more. So anyways, with that, guys, we're going to bid you guys night. Thank you a lot for like indulging us. We went from the logical problem evil to this like ranting, but it's okay because I need to rant every so often because I'm going to do a call out. I never have done a call out in 6 years. My call out is anybody who is ethical and has any honor, get on these fucking people to pay me what I'm due. Get on them to at least justify their actions by somebody taking 100% of the profit of a channel that we started from the fans, the Patreons, and the people that have donated their fundage, thinking that it was supposed to be evenly distributed between Kyle and I and some for Bullinator as well. If you have any ethics and honor, continue to call out College Engineer, Caitlin Chloe, and Katie Polson, and anybody else that's involved in that debacle. Because I'm literally going to ask people to do that at this point because I have never had before, but after spending so much time with my daughter today, I'm going to do what I got to do in order for my daughter. And this is not for me. This is for her. And anybody who says otherwise can fuck right off because there's been one person who's been creeping around lately. And Reds, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Somebody she's actually using my daughter against me. I blocked her, you blocked her, and she could fuck right off as well. And you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. And by the way, on the off chance that she knows that we're talking about her, hey girl, I've wanted to say this for a very long time. Any apology that I ever gave you in the past, I take it all back. Fuck you. Just fuck you.
And I've never apologized to her, and I never will. And she doesn't watch this, and I don't think anybody's going to know who the hell we're talking about, but it doesn't matter. But you know what?
I don't care.
Fuck you too. Fuck you. I mean, this chick has been nothing but a thorn in people's sides, stitch stir, and now she's talking about my daughter. No. Fuck you, and good night.